Welcome to Mamahood After Trauma, where we stop pretending and heal out loud. I'm Emily Cleghorn, trauma survivor, cycle breaker, and mama rebuilding from the inside out. If you're ready to break cycles, trust yourself again, and rise without shame, you're in the right place. Let's go. Before we dive in, mama, if you're a mama healing from trauma and trying to parent differently, but you're not sure what support or next step is right for you, I totally understand. And that's why I've created something to help. Take my free Find Your Next Step to Calm and Healing quiz to discover where you are in your healing journey and what your next best step looks like. You'll find the link in the show notes below. Hello, mama, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I'm thrilled that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen to our conversation today. Today, we are joined by Tori Janae. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here and have this conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So let's dive right in. Tori, can you share with our listeners a little bit of your story and how you came to be in the trauma recovery space?
Yes, I definitely was born into this work, not really by choice. Um, I always like to start where I am and then go back to where I was to give people an idea. So today I hold 3 degrees in psychology. I've studied everything from yoga to Ayurveda to functional medicine for the last 26 years. I live in Beverly Hills, California, and I never in a million years would have thought I would end up here because I was actually conceived in a heroin rehab facility. My mom struggled with addiction her entire life.
Mhm.
My father was in the Vietnam War and he left when I was 6 months old. I met him when I was later, but he was had severe alcoholism and obviously a lot of issues from being, PTSD.
Mhm.
And then that translated into my siblings on both sides. So my mom had addiction till the day she died, pretty much addiction, pills, cocaine, alcohol, like you name it. She married a man who actually had a crack addiction. Then they, they had my brother. Luckily, my mom was clean when she gave birth to both of us, but she definitely married a lot of people with it. She had 5 marriages. She was a beautiful woman, so she kind of found these men who would rescue her. But there was just immense amount of trauma and addiction in my
Mhm.
family. I'm the first one to break the cycle. My older sister on my mom's side and my older brother on my dad's side both passed from addiction. So at 47 now, I'm the oldest living member in my family. And I
Wow.
broke the cycle, luckily, for my younger siblings and particularly my younger brother from my mom. I took care of him. He had a little bit of an issue with alcohol, but thank God today he's clean and sober and healthy and happy and, recently engaged. So I'm so excited to see that change. But I always say that, like, I've lived through hell, the kind of grief that
Mhm.
will definitely break your soul open, both parents being addicts. I had a step grandmother actually who was amazing, and she was probably the only person who really showed me love and kindness. So at least I had her. But as an adult, through my childhood was hell. I left home at 17. I put myself through college. I paid cash for that because I didn't even know how to take out loans or do any of that. And
Mhm.
all 3 degrees, I did that. I worked full time and put myself through school. And one day I realized like how much healing work I had to do on myself. I ended
Mhm.
up married and basically I've lost multiple people in my family. I got divorced after 18 years. I've lost my health, my money, my family. Like there isn't any trauma I haven't been through.
Mhm.
I've been cheated on, like you name it. So it's like I always say that like yes, I have a lot of degrees, but I've walked the fire of each of these
Mhm.
things. So when I speak, I always want people to know that because I used to, when I remember on my healing journey, I would listen to people talk, but I'd be like, but you haven't been through any of this. Like even therapists
Mhm.
that I'd worked through, it's like, you don't, like they would be like, wow, that's so much. And I'd be like, I know. Like, do you have the skills to help me?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, do you actually understand?
Exactly. And a lot of people don't. So I really feel strongly about sharing my story, especially because my mom was my greatest teacher and the most difficult
Hmm.
person in my life. And I have love and forgiveness and understanding for her now because I see all her trauma too. But I'm
Hmm.
super excited to have this conversation and help women heal because I really believe that the work we do heals
Hmm.
our children, it heals our family
Absolutely.
lines. And in my dad's part Native American, so I think I'm over like 30, I'm like 30%. But like we believe that when you heal 7 generations before you and seven
Hmm.
generations after. And doing this work for the last 14 years, I've definitely seen that when women start to heal themselves, their relationships improve, their children improve, and it's just like that's, another like benefit to doing the work.
Absolutely. And I think what you said there is so important to not just have the book knowledge, which you most certainly do. Like you have the book knowledge and you've studied, but you also have the lived experience and being able to um, put those kind of intertwine those and speak from, well, I know this because I've studied it, but I've also lived it and walked through it. So I think that is so powerful and something that I know as a trauma survivor is really, like you mentioned, it was important to you. It's important. It was important. It's important to me when I look for um, people along my path to help me navigate my healing journey. And I'm sure it's important to other trauma survivors because when we find a therapist or a practitioner who has the book knowledge but doesn't understand the lived experience, there is there's a misalignment because people aren't books. Like we every
Yeah.
experience is not the same.
No.
Um and yeah, I think that's really important to highlight because it is really important.
Yeah, and I think everybody like I'm sure a lot of your listeners, because I've experienced this too, kind of have had a therapist who was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
specialize in trauma and would look at me after, because I gave you tiny snippets, high level,
Yeah.
and they would look at me like surprised or shocked, like my story that like they weren't sure what to do with that. And it was like, well, if you're like looking scared, how am I supposed to feel?
Yeah.
And then it was like also because I was pretty high functioning, like thank God I
Mm-hmm.
made the decisions to when I was 18, I quit drinking and partying. I didn't do anything. Like I've been sober like most of my whole life pretty much because I knew for me that was like Russian roulette. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, especially those of us who are struggling with, all the things that are so common in trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're high functioning, you're going to have control issues, perfectionism, attachment
Mm-hmm.
issues, nervous system dysregulation, stomach issues, skin issues, autoimmune issues. It's like
Yeah. The
I've
issues
lived
are
through all of
are
them.
are numerous.
They are, especially when it comes to like autoimmune and
Mm-hmm.
skin. Like I see those so hugely. Like in myself, I saw it. I have um I worked through Addison's and psoriasis and like you name it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our bodies are really trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's like learning to heal basically from the inside out to teach
Mm-hmm.
our nervous system and our body that it can protect itself. But yes, if you've
Mm-hmm.
not had someone who's walked through all that and who understands what it feels like to live in that space or to be hyper vigilant, or like,
Mm-hmm.
when my clients tell me, like about hypervigilance, like I know because there was a time in my life when I would just stop to fill my car with fuel. Like I couldn't have my back to someone because I would
Mm-hmm.
be like worried, like I would be hyper conscious of a man who pulled up in a car next to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I I think when you're able to help people and you've got that lived experience, you're able to help them on a level that far exceeds anything else because you know the experience and you felt it in your body.
And that's such a huge one because
Yeah.
it's like, it's so hard to explain to people. It's just like if you've lost someone, like you can explain it or look for a kind of empathy that
Mm-hmm.
just is not ever going to happen. I always think of this scene, if people had seen the older movie like Good Will Hunting,
Mm-hmm.
where he's very brilliant. He reads lots of books, but Robin Williams is a therapist and takes him outside and says, "Look, kid, you can talk, you can tell me everything you've read about Italy and the travels and all these things, but he's like, you've never gotten on a plane and stood in the Sistine Chapel." And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what it's like with healing this type of work, is like they can understand it cognitively, but they've never embodied it. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what that feels like to explain to someone, how do I go from overreactivity and yelling
Mm-hmm.
or pushing people away to not doing that. That's the
Mm-hmm.
hardest thing, I think, for even like a lot of, and again, there's a lot of amazing therapists out there. So I
Yeah.
don't want to put that out there at all. But just like, I think sharing our stories too is so important so people know that it's not just us, that there are all the amazing people I've ever met have had a heavy trauma history. And because I've studied a lot of different spiritualities, everything from the yogic Vedas to Christianity to
Mm-hmm.
Kabbalah, really what I've learned in all of that, 20 years with a guru, like all this great, deep stuff. Because I wanted to know the bigger questions of like, why was I born into this? Why was this my
Mm-hmm.
trajectory? And what I've found in all of them is that a soul that is here with a great path, a great deal to learn, that is here to have a depth of wisdom that you cannot get any other way. A comfortable life does not create enlightenment.
No, it certainly does not.
Because I always think about that for myself. Like I would have never went down all these paths of healing, mind, body,
Mm-hmm.
soul, if I had not needed to heal myself at such a level, at such a
Mm-hmm.
deep level. Like this is where
Mm-hmm.
all of my greatest wounds became my deepest wisdom. And I really think that those of us with a heavy trauma history are here to do things that are amazing. We just have to
Yeah.
figure out, how do we transmute that energy? And that's the hard part. But I truly
Yeah,
believe
that
that at my core.
that is the hard part. How do you, it's kind of cliche, especially the last few years, turn your pain
Into
into
your purpose.
a bigger purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of been a buzz phrase over the last few years. Um, but it's true. Like I this podcast exists because of my journey and not being able to find the support that I needed
Hmm.
and just making a decision to fill a gap. Um, Otherwise, had I lived a very different life that didn't have all of the chaos and heartache that it did, this community wouldn't exist.
Yeah, and think of all the people that wouldn't have been helped, wouldn't have each other, wouldn't have connection, which is
Yeah,
survival, which is
yeah,
by like necessary for healing and survival.
yeah. This episode is sponsored by The Rising Room. Hey, Mama, did you know the Mamahood After Trauma podcast is more than just something you listen to? Every week, we have conversations about trauma healing, triggers, emotional regulation, and breaking generational cycles. But I know listening is only one part of the journey. That's why I've created the Rising Room. It's a space where you can go deeper with the podcast through reflection prompts, monthly resources, and support designed to help you take what you're learning and apply it to your own healing journey. And if you're ready for deeper support, the regulation pathway gives you a guided next step to understand your triggers, regulate your nervous system, and begin creating more peace in your mamahood. You can learn more and find out your next step through the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to our episode. Yeah. So, what is one golden nugget?
Yeah, I think the first step we have to get out of that you're saying to like make that transition, and
Yeah.
it's the hardest one, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the transition out of victim mindset. And I get it, it's hard, it doesn't make sense, it's not fair,
Mm-hmm.
but pressure creates diamonds. And until I really made that decision that everything that happened to me, I was going to do something with it and not let
Mm-hmm.
it define me, but let
Mm-hmm.
it grow me, nothing was going to change. Nothing changes until you do. So that first shift you have to make internally is that all of this happened. I cannot change that, but I can heal it and I can do something with it. I can turn this
Absolutely.
pain into at least my personal power. And so victim mindset is any time that we think life is happening to me, why me?
Mm-hmm.
Bad things always happen to me, and I get like I always share parts of my story so people understand. Like I had a 15-year period where there was not one year where someone did not die or something
Mm-hmm.
horrible happened. Like, so,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned that lesson a really harsh way. And it's still something I have to work on. The bad things always
Yeah.
happen to me because they do. Like, that's just been
That's
my life
life.
experience. Like, and it's not just like normal things. Like I always joke, I haven't sunk on a ship or gone down in a plane, but pretty much everything else I've taken on. Even here in California, we had like fires last year, right?
Yeah.
That was like evacuated from my home and like black
Yeah.
smoke was it's like, okay, well now I can check off natural disaster. Uh, so, so it's like it's constantly bringing myself back to that place of like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
horrible things happen and I have to lick my wounds and I have to feel my feelings and I
Mm-hmm.
have to get through that. But eventually I've got to pick myself up and say like, okay, now what am I going to do? What did I learn from that? How am I going to get
Mm-hmm.
better from it?
Mm-hmm.
That's not our first instinct and it shouldn't be. That's avoidance.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're more than a year out from a particular trauma and you're still looping it, you've got to get some more support to start stepping out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think you mentioned diamonds are made under pressure.
Hmm.
And for me, one of my favorite flowers is fireweed. It's a beautiful purple flower and it only grows after a wildfire.
Yeah, many trees are born after a wildfire as well.
Yeah. We there are sure the wildfire, the pressure, the stress, the heartache, they're all terrible things, but beauty can come from it.
Yes, no mud, no lotus. And I
Yeah.
always tell my clients, like, we choose at the end of the day, because we're the only species on the planet that has a consciousness, what breaks us and what breaks us open.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in my life could have broken me. Like, my older sister
Mm-hmm.
ended up an addict and didn't even make it, she only lived till her 30s. And that was a completely normal trajectory for what we had been through. And my
Mm-hmm.
sister had it worse in some ways because she actually got taken away from my mom. And so her foster parents were even more horrible. But like I think about it for myself and the level of empathy and understanding I have about life and about people would not
Mm-hmm.
have been born any other way. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love in a way that is so beautiful now because I know what loss feels like.
Yeah.
I know what pain feels like. I'm actually too kind because
Me too.
I yeah,
Me
like
too.
I'm actually working on that. Like I kind of jokingly call it like I almost have toxic empathy because I like even, I went through a divorce and I started dating again. It was like I was so kind to these guys. They didn't even know that I was telling them I wasn't interested because I was so like concerned about like how I might
Yeah.
traumatize them. So it's like we have to we have to like have this strength to step out of
Mm-hmm.
it and understand like God, we have such beautiful gifts, and all of that strength can become beauty, but it can also
Mm-hmm.
become walls, it can become detachment, it can become
Yeah.
numbing. And so we just have to really know who we are, what our gifts are, and know that they were somehow sharpened by those
Mm-hmm.
experiences if we can metabolize them. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And the first step of that is stepping out of the victimhood mindset. So
Yes.
what we're not going to go too far into this because I don't want to overwhelm our listeners, but
Mhm.
once we're out of the victimhood mindset, what's the next step?
So once I realized that, again, and doesn't mean that bad things didn't happen to you. This isn't like
Yeah.
sugarcoating it at all. This is just
No.
owning it and saying, like, I can't change it. So what am I going to do with it? What am I going to learn from it? And how am I going to move forward so I can be happy, so I can be
Yeah.
healthy? Then I always say the universe or your body, your mind, soul presents to you what you need to work on. And
Yeah.
so where are you struggling most in your life? Is it with your physical health? Is it with your mental health? Is it in your relationships?
Mm-hmm.
Choose one area you're going to work on that will make a significant improvement. So if you have medical issues, which a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us with trauma do,
Mm-hmm.
and because a lot of us were didn't learn boundaries and didn't learn self-care, we ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
So make that commitment to yourself to do one small thing about your medical. Like maybe it's you get a checkup, you do an extra um, you find a new dermatologist because you're covered in eczema. And like I had a client like that, like her eczema would get her hospitalized. And at the root of that issue was poor boundaries. Your skin is
Mm-hmm.
your boundary. If you're dealing
Mm-hmm.
with skin issues, I'm guaranteeing you, ladies, you've got boundary issues. Your skin's trying
Yep.
to be your boundary. So, so I always say like choose one area in which you're struggling most and start there because it shows up for all of us differently. Sometimes
Yep.
our relationships are the most painful place because we are pushing people away or we're getting in fights or we're living in a toxic situation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're struggling the most with our mental health. We're in anxiety, we're in depression, we're in OCD, BD, God, I believe personally, and I know that not a lot of people agree with me, but except for maybe Gabor Mate, but like, I think a lot of diagnoses that we get are trauma based.
I
So
would agree with that.
I've worked with so many people who like they're told they have ADHD, they have BD, borderline personality, anxiety, depression, but the gamut of things. But ultimately,
Trauma.
it is trauma, and that's just how it's presenting. That's how your brain adapted to deal with it. So
Yeah.
don't worry about the diagnosis, worry about how it's showing up in your life.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot of supplementation that can help you with that. A lot of people don't
Mm-hmm.
understand this. There's a guy named Dr. Daniel Amen. He has supplements that will help your brain if you don't want to go on medications or they haven't helped you, which is very common. I'm a big fan of like L-tyrosine for ADHD, saffron.
Mm-hmm.
Specific kinds of saffron are great for depression, mood issues, SAM-E. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
have gone into like the functional medicine side of this because I see that like just like if you were going to build muscle in the gym, you would know you need protein. Like you would know that like I've got to eat enough and
Mm-hmm.
I've got to like it's common knowledge. If you're trying to heal, your brain needs extra amino acids because that is the precursor for all of your neuroreceptors.
Mm-hmm.
And SSRIs, a lot of people don't know, but statistically, if they get a 5% improvement in mood, they are statistically significant. I don't know about you, but I didn't want to feel 5% better. So
Okay.
so it's, I've gone deep into all these things. So like your mental health, like some quick things that are like, if you're isolating, make a connection with one person. That will be huge for your depression. If
Yep.
you're anxious, learn how to breathe, take a walk, complete the stress cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety also does really well with things like L-theanine,
Mm-hmm.
which is very calming and balances serotonin and dopamine. And all these things are not heavy hitters. They're not going to be like, knock you out at all. They're just going to start helping your brain. Again, they're going to help your brain heal at the root cause because that's what we want. And
Yeah.
then I always say, like, we also are sick spiritually. We have to find
Mm-hmm.
meaning in life and in what
Mm-hmm.
happened. And one of the biggest ways, and this has been proven in depression research too, is help someone else.
Mm-hmm.
because that makes us feel good. It shows us that what we've been through means something. Volunteer. Um, there's a there was a great story of someone I know who like he was he was training as a therapist and a friend of mine, but he was working at a suicide hotline, and he used to tell people like go do one thing, just help someone else. And a man was literally on the line, and he went and swept up his elderly older woman neighbor's house, like front porch, because it had been overgrown with like,
Mm-hmm.
he was so worried about her falling and had a bunch of stuff there. And then the next time he did it again, and then she thanked him, and he called back like a week later, and they had like made this kind of connection, and like that saved his life. As
Yeah,
simple as it
that's
was, just
huge.
helping someone else. Because at the end of the day, when we are looping in our own brain, we need to get out of it. It's not a safe place to
Mm-hmm.
be.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes your brain can be not helpful.
No, and a trauma brain is always looking for threat,
Yeah.
always looking for negativity, always looking for how to stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we become a little bit, we lean more toward what we call in neuroscience the negativity bias.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps us alive, but it also keeps us stuck in survival mode.
Yeah.
And that feels like control and stress. And I just got to get through today. And
Yeah.
I'll take care of myself when life calms down. And it's like, no, the storm of life is never going to calm down. You've got to build a shelter.
Yeah. If the storm of life calms down, you're dead.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
One of my gurus always used to say that. like life will stop being difficult when you die.
How can our listeners connect with you further if they'd like to do so?
My website is the easiest way. So www.torijanae, ToriJenae.com, and also Instagram at tori.janae. And I do have some free resources on there, particularly I think for this audience, there's one called like the 7 core psychological wounds. And so it's like, is it the betrayal wound, the different kinds that
Mm-hmm.
abandonment wound,
Mm-hmm.
how to identify it in yourself and start, and like again, like for one psychological thing for us to look at and start focusing on. But like I said, shift your mindset first and then focus on one area of your life, because a lot of times when we have all this stuff coming at us, we're like, how can I fix it all? And it just
Yeah, and
doesn't
that's really
happen.
overwhelming.
It is so overwhelming. It's like, okay, I've got to fix my relationships and my health and my mental health and my spiritual health. No, choose one
Pick
and
one
just
and go from there.
take. I always tell my clients, if you get 1% better every week, 1% at the end of the year, you're 50% better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful. Well, thank you so much, Tori, for being on the show today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to follow the podcast so new episodes land right in your feed each week. And if you're wondering what your next step toward calmer, more confident motherhood looks like, take my free Find Your Next Step to Calm and Confidence quiz found in the show notes below. Until next time, Mama, mend the past so you can mama in peace.